The massive space station called Helios Nexus floated in the darkness between stars. It was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Thousands of alien ships came and went from its docking bays every day. Inside the station, hundreds of different alien species walked through the wide corridors doing business and making deals. Captain Hyunwoo stood in one of these corridors watching the aliens pass by. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others crawled on 6 legs or floated using strange technology. He had been in space for 3 months now, but the sight still amazed him. Next to him stood Lieutenant Jiwon, a sharp-eyed woman who carried herself like a soldier. She was looking at a data pad, reading information about the upcoming military expo. "They're going to laugh at us," Jiwon said quietly. She didn't look up from her pad. Hyunwoo smiled a little. "Probably. Let them laugh." Behind them, Ambassador Minho was talking with his assistants. He was a thin man with gray hair who always looked worried. Today he looked more worried than usual. Earth had only been accepted into the Galactic Coalition 6 months ago. This expo was supposed to show that humans belonged here, that they could contribute something valuable. But Minho knew what the other species thought of Earth. They thought humans were primitive. They thought Earth had nothing to offer. The military expo was being held in a giant hall at the center of the station. When Hyunwoo's group arrived, the hall was already full of aliens. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing weapons that looked like magic to human eyes, energy rifles that could vaporize metal, plasma cannons that burned hotter than the sun, missiles that could track targets across star systems. The Valkyrie were demonstrating their weapons first. They were tall reptilian creatures with dark green scales and yellow eyes. Their commander, a warrior named Thexal, stood on a raised platform. He held a rifle that glowed with blue light. When he fired it, a bolt of pure energy shot across the hall and struck a target. The target simply disappeared, turned to atoms in an instant. The crowd made sounds of approval. Different species had different ways of showing they were impressed, but Hyunwoo could tell they all liked what they saw. Next came the Kryn, an insect-like species with multiple arms and large compound eyes. They showed weapons that disrupted matter at the molecular level. A demonstration target fell apart like sand when hit by their guns. Species after species showed their advanced technology. Each display was more impressive than the last. Hyunwoo watched carefully, memorizing everything he saw. Finally, it was Earth's turn. Hyunwoo and Jiwon walked to the platform carrying large cases. They opened the cases slowly. Inside were assault rifles, pistols, combat knives, and several types of grenades. The weapons looked simple compared to everything else in the hall. They were made of metal and plastic. They had no glowing parts. They made no humming sounds. The hall grew quiet for a moment. Then someone in the crowd made a sound like laughter. Soon, more aliens were laughing. The sound was strange because each species laughed differently, but the meaning was clear. They thought human weapons were a joke. Thexal stepped forward from the Valkyrie group. His yellow eyes focused on Hyunwoo. "These are your weapons?" he asked. His translator device made his voice sound smooth and cold. "These primitive kinetic devices. We used such things 10,000 years ago before we discovered energy weapons." More laughter echoed through the hall. Hyunwoo's face remained calm. He picked up one of the assault rifles and held it up for everyone to see. "This is an AR-15 platform rifle," he said. His voice was steady and clear. "It fires a 5.56mm projectile at approximately 975 meters per second. The magazine holds 30 rounds. Rate of fire is approximately 60 rounds per minute in semi-automatic mode." A small alien that looked like a floating jellyfish made a bubbling sound. Its translator said, "How quaint. A weapon that throws metal. Do you also fight with rocks and sticks?" The crowd laughed again. Ambassador Minho's face turned red. He looked like he wanted to disappear. But Hyunwoo just smiled. "Would you like a demonstration?" Hyunwoo asked, looking at Thexal. The Valkyrie commander's scales seemed to darken, which Hyunwoo had learned meant anger or excitement. "A demonstration? Against our weapons?" "A fair comparison," Hyunwoo said. "Your weapons against ours. Tomorrow in the combat arena, we can show everyone what human weapons can really do." The crowd grew quiet again. Challenges like this were rare. They were also considered binding agreements in coalition culture. If Hyunwoo was challenging the Valkyrie, he couldn't back down. Thexal's mouth opened, showing sharp teeth. This was the Valkyrie version of a smile. "I accept your challenge, human. Tomorrow we will show everyone the difference between primitive weapons and true technology." Prepare to be humiliated in front of the entire coalition. The crowd made excited sounds. This was unexpected entertainment. The other species began talking among themselves, probably making bets on how badly the humans would lose. Ambassador Minho pulled Hyunwoo aside as they left the hall. "What are you doing?" he whispered urgently. "You've made things worse. When we lose tomorrow, Earth will be a laughingstock. We'll never be taken seriously." Hyunwoo looked at the older man. "We won't lose. How can you be so sure? Did you see their weapons? They can vaporize targets. Our guns just shoot bullets." Jiwon spoke up. "That's exactly why we'll win, sir." Minho looked confused. "What do you mean?" "You'll see tomorrow," Hyunwoo said. "Trust us. We know what we're doing." That night, Hyunwoo and Jiwon sat in their quarters on the station. They were watching recordings of the expo, studying the alien weapons carefully. Jiwon made notes on her datapad. "The energy weapons are impressive," she said. "But did you notice the charge time?" "About 2 seconds between shots," Hyunwoo said. "And the plasma rifles overheat after sustained fire. Their armor is designed to disperse energy," Jiwon continued. "Spread it out so it doesn't burn through." "But kinetic impacts work differently," Hyunwoo nodded. "They've never faced bullets before. They don't know how to defend against them." Jiwon looked at her captain. "Are you really confident about tomorrow?" Hyunwoo checked his rifle, making sure everything was clean and working. "They think technology is everything. They think newer is always better. But they've forgotten something important." "What's that?" "That sometimes the old ways work best. That sometimes simple is better than complicated." He looked at Jiwon. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we show them what humans can do." Jiwon smiled. "Yes, sir." Across the station, in the Velkari quarters, Thexal was also preparing. But he wasn't worried. He was excited. Tomorrow would be easy. Tomorrow he would demonstrate Velkari superiority. Tomorrow the humans would learn their place in the galaxy. He had no idea what was coming. The combat arena was packed with aliens. Thousands of them filled the seats that circled the large training ground below. News of the challenge had spread quickly through the station. Everyone wanted to see the primitive humans get beaten by advanced Velkari technology. Some species had even traveled from their ships just to watch. Hyunwoo stood in the preparation room under the arena. He could hear the crowd above making their strange sounds. Jiwon was checking their weapons one last time. Each rifle was loaded. Each magazine was full. Their equipment was arranged neatly on a table. Ambassador Minho came into the room. He still looked worried. "The betting pools are heavily in favor of the Velkari," he said. "Some species are offering 100-to-1 odds against us." "Good," Hyunwoo said. He was putting on his tactical vest. "Someone's going to make a lot of money today." "I don't understand how you can be so calm," Minho said. Jiwon answered while loading magazines. "We've studied their weapons, sir. We know their weaknesses, and they know nothing about ours." A voice came over the speakers. It was time. Hyunwoo and Jiwon picked up their weapons and walked toward the arena entrance. The door opened and bright lights hit them. The crowd's noise got louder. Most of it sounded like laughter and mockery. The arena floor was large and flat with marked zones for different tests. Holographic targets stood at various distances. Obstacle courses waited on one side. Everything was controlled by the arena's computer system. On the other side of the arena, Thexal entered with his team. He carried his plasma rifle, which glowed with blue energy. His scales gleamed under the lights. He raised his weapon above his head, and the Velkari section of the crowd roared with approval. An announcer's voice filled the arena. The translator made it understandable to all species. "Welcome to this historic demonstration. Today the Velkari will face the humans in a series of combat challenges. The first test is target elimination speed. Competitors will engage 20 targets at various ranges. Time and accuracy will be measured." Thexal stepped up to the firing line first. The crowd grew quiet. 20 holographic targets appeared at different distances, from 50 meters to 300 meters. A buzzer sounded. Thexal moved smoothly. His plasma rifle charged with a high-pitched whine. He aimed and fired. The first target exploded in a burst of light. He aimed again. Another charge, another shot, another target destroyed. His movements were practiced and efficient. Hyunwoo watched carefully. Between each shot there was a pause. About 2 seconds while the weapon recharged. Thexal was skilled, there was no doubt. He hit every target. but it took him almost 60 seconds to destroy all 20. The crowd cheered. It was an impressive display. The Valkyrie in the stands made their roaring sounds of pride. Now it was Jiwon's turn. She walked to the firing line carrying her rifle. It looked plain compared to the glowing plasma weapon. She took a shooting stance, legs apart, rifle shouldered. The targets appeared, the buzzer sounded, Jiwon fired. The sharp crack of gunfire echoed through the arena. She fired again. And again. Her hands moved automatically, adjusting her aim between shots. The rifle bucked against her shoulder with each round. Target after target fell. She didn't pause. She didn't wait for anything to charge. She just kept firing. In 18 seconds, all 20 targets were down. The arena went completely silent. No one made a sound. They couldn't believe what they had just seen. Jiwon lowered her rifle and engaged the safety. She turned and walked back to where Hyunwoo stood. Her face showed no emotion. The announcer's voice broke the silence. The human competitor has completed the challenge in 18 seconds. All targets eliminated. Whispers and strange sounds filled the arena as the aliens talked to each other. How had the primitive weapon fired so fast? Where was the charge time? How was it possible? Thexel's yellow eyes were wide. He looked at his plasma rifle, then at Jiwon's weapon. He seemed confused. The announcer continued. The second challenge is the obstacle course. Competitors will navigate a combat environment while engaging hostile targets. Time and accuracy both matter. The arena floor transformed. Walls rose from the ground. Barriers appeared. It looked like a ruined city now, with broken buildings and vehicles. Target drones waited hidden throughout the course. Thexel went first again. He activated an energy shield device on his belt. A shimmering field appeared around him. He moved into the course carefully. When a target drone appeared, he fired his plasma rifle. The bolt of energy destroyed the drone completely. He used his shield to block return fire from other drones. His progress was steady but slow. The plasma rifle needed to cool down after several shots. Twice he had to stop and wait. He finished the course in 4 minutes and 30 seconds, destroying 25 out of 30 targets. The crowd cheered again. It was a good performance. Hyunwoo checked his rifle and stepped up to the course. He had no energy shield, just his tactical vest and his weapons. The course reset. New target drones appeared. The buzzer sounded and Hyunwoo moved. He ran forward, not walking. His rifle came up smoothly as the first drone appeared. 3 quick shots and it fell. He kept moving. A drone appeared on his left. He turned and fired without stopping. The drone sparked and crashed. He reached a barrier and immediately pulled a small object from his vest. He pressed it against the barrier and moved away. 3 seconds later, the shaped charge exploded. The barrier blew apart. Smoke filled that section of the course. The crowd made surprised sounds. They had never seen explosives used like this before. Hyunwoo moved through the smoke. Drones appeared but couldn't target him clearly. He fired through the smoke, hitting targets he could barely see. His training took over. He knew where targets would be. He knew how they would move. He came to a wall. Instead of going around, he climbed over it quickly. A drone appeared above him. He drew his pistol with his left hand and shot it while holding the rifle in his right. The drone fell. Near the end of the course, multiple drones attacked at once. Hyunwoo dropped behind cover. He pulled a grenade from his vest, pulled the pin, and threw it. The explosion destroyed 3 drones. He stood and fired his rifle, taking out 2 more. When he crossed the finish line, the timer showed 2 minutes and 45 seconds. He had destroyed all 30 targets. The arena was silent again. Then slowly sounds began. But this time they weren't sounds of laughter. They were sounds of surprise and respect. In the Thryn section of the crowd, a warrior named Vera stood up. The Thryn were a species that valued combat skill above everything else. Vara's 4 eyes focused on Hyunwoo. She made a sound that her translator converted to words. Impressive. Very impressive, other Thryn around her agreed. They began asking questions. What were those explosive devices? How did the human move so efficiently? Why didn't his weapon need to recharge? Some of the alien military observers were taking notes now. They were starting to understand something. These primitive weapons had advantages. No energy signature to detect. No charge time. No overheating. They were simple, but that simplicity was a strength. Thexel stood very still. His scales had turned a darker color. He was thinking. The challenge wasn't over yet. There was still the endurance test and the final combat simulation. He could still win. But doubt had entered his mind for the first time. Ambassador Minho was standing in the preparation room entrance. His mouth was open. He looked shocked. Next to him, his assistants were equally stunned. On the arena floor, Jiwan handed Hyunwoo a bottle of water. That got their attention, she said quietly. Hyunwoo drank some water and nodded. The next test will really surprise them, the announcer's voice came again. We will now proceed to the endurance challenge. Competitors must maintain continuous combat for 10 minutes against waves of target drones. Weapon reliability and stamina will be tested. The crowd settled in to watch. This challenge had just become much more interesting than anyone expected. The arena transformed again for the endurance test. The obstacles were removed. Now it was just open space with defensive positions at regular intervals. Waves of target drones would come from all directions for 10 straight minutes. This test pushed both the weapon and the warrior to their limits. Thexal stepped into position. He checked his plasma rifle one more time. The weapon hummed with power. He looked confident again. Endurance was a Velkari strength. Their weapons were built to last. He would show these humans what sustained combat really meant. The buzzer sounded. Drones poured into the arena from all sides. Thexal began firing. His plasma bolts destroyed drone after drone. Blue energy lit up the arena. For the first 3 minutes, he was perfect. Every shot hit. Every drone fell. But then the first problem appeared. His rifle's cooling system started working harder. The weapon was getting hot. Thexal kept firing, but he had to slow down. The time between shots got longer. 4 minutes. 5 minutes. At 5 minutes and 20 seconds, a warning light appeared on his rifle. Overheat warning. Thexal had to stop shooting. He took cover behind one of the defensive positions. The rifle needed 30 seconds to cool down. Drones kept coming, their simulated weapons hitting his position. He couldn't return fire. When the cooling cycle finished, he started shooting again. But his rhythm was broken. At 8 minutes, the overheat warning came again. Another forced pause. By the time the 10 minutes ended, Thexal had destroyed 147 drones. It was a good score, but everyone had seen the weapon's limitation. Thexal walked off the field breathing hard. His scales were darker, showing stress. He had done well, but not perfectly. The weapon had failed him at crucial moments. Now it was the human's turn. But this time, both Hyunwoo and Jiwan walked onto the field together. The announcer's voice explained that coalition rules allowed team participation in the endurance test. Many species used teams because energy weapons couldn't sustain continuous fire. The crowd watched with more interest now. They wanted to see if the humans could maintain their performance. The buzzer sounded. Drones flooded in. Hyunwoo and Jiwan stood back to back about 5 meters apart. They created a defensive circle. Hyunwoo took the left side. Jiwan took the right. The sound of gunfire filled the arena. Sharp, rapid cracks. Hyunwoo fired in controlled bursts. 3 rounds, adjust aim, 3 more rounds. Drones fell like rain. Next to him, Jiwan was doing the same. Their movements were synchronized without words. They knew each other's fighting style perfectly. 1 minute passed. 2 minutes. The drones kept coming. Hyunwoo's magazine ran empty. Without breaking rhythm, he dropped the empty magazine and slammed a new one into place. The whole action took less than 2 seconds. He kept firing. The aliens in the crowd who were paying attention noticed this. The human didn't need to stop shooting for cooling. He just swapped the ammunition source and continued. It was so simple but so effective. 3 minutes. 4 minutes. Jiwan called out, "Reloading!" Immediately, Hyunwoo shifted his fire to cover her side too. His rifle moved smoothly, taking down drones before they could exploit the gap. 3 seconds later, Jiwan was back in action. Ready. They continued like this. When one reloaded, the other covered. They never stopped shooting. They never overheated. They just kept going. At 6 minutes, Hyunwoo threw a grenade into a thick cluster of drones. The explosion destroyed 8 of them at once, more efficient than shooting them one by one. At 8 minutes, both warriors were breathing harder. Their arms were tired, but their weapons still worked perfectly. No cooling needed, no overheating. Just a steady stream of bullets meeting targets. When the 10-minute buzzer sounded, the arena floor was covered with destroyed drones. The final count appeared on the holographic display. 293 drones eliminated. Not a single forced pause. Not a single moment when they couldn't fight back. The crowd erupted in noise. This time it wasn't laughter. Species were talking excitedly. The Thrin section was especially loud. Farah was standing again. All four of her eyes focused on the humans. She understood what she had just witnessed. These weren't primitive weapons. They were proven weapons. Reliable weapons. Even the Velkari section was quieter now. Some of them looked thoughtful. Their advanced technology had failed, where human simplicity had succeeded. In the VIP observation area, military commanders from a dozen species were having intense discussions. A small flying alien that looked like a bird was speaking to his aides. "Get me detailed specifications on those kinetic weapons. I want to know manufacturing requirements, ammunition logistics, everything." A large armored alien from the Gorthak species grunted. "Simple, efficient, works everywhere. No energy signature to track. I need these weapons for my border forces." Ambassador Minho was no longer worried. He was smiling. Earth was proving its worth. His assistants were already receiving communication requests from other species, wanting to talk about technology exchange. On the arena floor, Hyunwoo and Jiwan were checking their equipment for the final challenge. Thexal approached them. His movement was different now. Less arrogant. More respectful. "Your weapons are more capable than I believed," he said. His voice through the translator sounded honest. "And your skills are considerable." "I underestimated you," Hyunwoo nodded. "Many do. That's usually their mistake." "The final challenge remains," Thexal said. "Simulated combat. One-on-one. Will you face me yourself, or will you send your partner?" "I'll face you," Hyunwoo said. Thexal's scales rippled, showing respect. "Good. Let us finish this with honor." The announcer's voice filled the arena again. "The final challenge will be one-on-one simulated combat. The arena will be transformed into an urban warfare environment. Both competitors will use training versions of their weapons that register hits but cause no real damage. First to score a confirmed kill wins." The arena floor began changing. Buildings rose from the ground. Streets appeared. Vehicles materialized. Within minutes, it looked like a small city. Plenty of cover. Plenty of places to hide. Plenty of ways to die. Thexal checked his plasma rifle. The training version glowed green instead of blue, but it worked the same way. Hyunwoo checked his rifle. The training rounds would sting if they hit, but wouldn't seriously injure. Sensors would detect any hit that would have been fatal with real ammunition. Both warriors moved to their starting positions on opposite ends of the urban environment. The crowd fell silent. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Advanced alien technology versus human primitive weapons. Warrior versus warrior. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Thexal activated his energy shield. The shimmering field surrounded him. He was ready. 7, 6, 5. Hyunwoo took a deep breath. He thought about his training. Years of combat experience. Dozens of missions. He knew how to fight. He knew how to win. 4, 3, 2. The crowd held their breath. Thousands of aliens waited to see what would happen. 1. The buzzer sounded. Both warriors disappeared into the urban environment. The hunt had begun. Cameras tracked them, showing their movements on large screens for the crowd. Thexal moved carefully, using his shield as protection. He was scanning for the human, looking for any sign of movement. Hyunwoo moved like a shadow. Fast and quiet. He didn't use the streets. He used the buildings. He climbed to a second-floor window and looked out carefully. He could see Thexal moving below, 2 blocks away. Hyunwoo smiled. The Velkari was hunting, but Hyunwoo was already in position. The final challenge had truly begun, and the human captain had the first advantage. Hyunwoo watched Thexal move through the street below. The Velkari warrior was being cautious now. He knew the human was dangerous. His energy shield shimmered around him, ready to block any shot. He held his plasma rifle ready, scanning windows and doorways. Hyunwoo could take the shot. The distance was maybe 50 meters. An easy shot. But he knew better. The energy shield would probably stop the bullet, or at least slow it enough to be non-lethal. He needed a better plan. He moved away from the window silently. He knew this urban environment. He had studied the layout while it was being built. There was an alley system that connected the buildings. He could move without being seen. Below, Thexal was thinking too. The human had disappeared from his sensors. Kinetic weapons had no energy signature. He couldn't track the rifle like he could track a plasma weapon. This was frustrating. He was used to having every advantage. Now he felt blind. Thexal decided to be aggressive. He fired his plasma rifle at a building he thought the human might be hiding in. The green training bolt hit the wall and left a scorch mark. He fired again at another building. He was trying to flush Hyunwoo out, make him move, make him visible. Hyunwoo heard the plasma shots but didn't react. He kept moving through the alleys. He pulled a smoke grenade from his vest, then another. He had a plan forming. The Valkyri's energy shield was strong, but it had to have limits. He reached a position 3 blocks away from where he had last seen Thexal. He climbed to a rooftop and looked around. There. The Valkyrie was still in the same area, firing at buildings, trying to draw him out. Hyunwoo pulled the pin on the first smoke grenade and threw it. It landed in the street near Thexal and immediately began spilling thick white smoke. He threw the second grenade to another location. Within seconds, the entire area was filling with smoke. The crowd watching on the screen saw everything. They saw the smoke spreading. They saw Thexal's confusion as his vision was blocked. They heard him make a frustrated sound. Thexal's helmet had sensors, but they were designed to detect energy weapons, not humans hiding in smoke. He spun around, trying to see through the growing cloud. He fired his plasma rifle into the smoke. The bolts lit up the area briefly but hit nothing. Hyunwoo was moving through the smoke now. He knew exactly where he was because he had memorized the layout. Thexal didn't have that advantage. The Valkyrie was firing randomly, wasting shots. Then Hyunwoo heard something important. The distinctive whine of the plasma rifle charging. It was coming from his left. He moved right, circling around. The smoke was thick, perfect for what he needed to do. He saw Thexal's shadow in the smoke. The Valkyrie's shield made a faint shimmer that was visible even in the gray clouds. Hyunwoo raised his rifle but didn't fire. Not yet. He needed the right moment. Thexal fired again into the smoke. The recoil made him step back slightly. In that moment, his concentration on the shield dropped just a little. It was a tiny opening, but Hyunwoo had been waiting for it. He fired. 3 quick rounds. The bullets passed through the smoke. The first one hit the energy shield and stopped as expected. But that shot had a purpose. It made the shield light up, showing its exact position. It also overloaded that section of the shield for a fraction of a second. The second and third bullets hit in almost the same spot, following so quickly that the shield couldn't redistribute its energy fast enough. The kinetic rounds punched through. They hit Thexal's armor on his right shoulder and chest. The sensors registered the hits immediately. Alarms sounded. Red lights flashed on both Thexal's armor and on the arena displays. The computer system announced the result. Fatal hits registered. Human competitor wins the challenge. The smoke began to clear. Thexal stood frozen, looking down at his armor where the sensors had marked the hits. He couldn't believe it. His energy shield had failed. His advanced technology had been beaten by simple bullets. Hyunwoo emerged from the smoke, his rifle lowered. He walked over to Thexal. "Good fight," he said. The arena was absolutely silent. Then Vara, the Thryn warrior, began making a deep drumming sound with her forearms hitting her chest. It was the Thryn way of showing ultimate respect to a warrior. Other Thryn joined in. The sound echoed through the arena. Slowly, other species began making their own sounds of approval. Not everyone. Some aliens still couldn't believe what they had witnessed, but many were impressed. The humans had proven themselves. Thexal looked at Hyunwoo. His scales had turned a different color, showing acceptance. "I have learned something today," he said. "Technology is not everything. The warrior matters more than the weapon, and you are a true warrior." He raised his plasma rifle over his head with both hands and then lowered it toward Hyunwoo. It was the Valkyrie gesture of respect from one warrior to another. The Valkyrie section of the crowd roared their approval. Their commander had shown honor in defeat. Ambassador Minho was celebrating in the observation area. Other diplomats were approaching him, wanting to schedule meetings. Earth had just gained respect across the galaxy in one afternoon. But then something happened that nobody expected. Alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed. The announcer's voice was replaced by a computer warning. "Alert, station under attack. All military personnel report to defensive positions." This is not a drill. The crowd in the arena began to panic. Aliens rushed toward the exits. On the screens, external cameras showed ships approaching the station. They were dark, angular vessels. The crowd recognized them immediately. Krell Dominion ships. The Krell were one of the most feared empires in the galaxy. They were raiders and conquerors. Their technology was advanced, their tactics brutal, and they were attacking right now. Hyunwoo and Jiwon immediately ran toward their equipment. They stripped off the training gear and grabbed their real weapons. Live ammunition, real grenades. Thexel did the same, switching his training rifle for his combat weapon. Why now? Thexel asked. Why attack during the expo? Because all your best warriors and commanders are here, Hyunwoo said, loading magazines. They chose this moment on purpose. We're targets, more alarm sounded. The station's defensive systems were engaging the Krell ships. Energy weapons fired from the station's turrets. But everyone knew the Krell shields could take a lot of punishment. Then another alarm. Boarding parties detected. Krell forces have breached sections 12, 15, and 23. All personnel prepare for close combat. Jiwon checked her rifle. Sections 15 and 23 are near the civilian areas. Ambassador Minho rushed over to them. The station security is organizing a defense, but they need help. The Krell are using some kind of phase technology. They're walking through energy shields like they're not even there. Hyunwoo and Thexel looked at each other. The Valkyrie commander understood immediately. Energy shields don't stop them. But your kinetic weapons might. Exactly, Hyunwoo said. He looked at the crowd of aliens still in the arena, many of them military personnel. We need every fighter. Grab whatever weapons you have. We're going to stop these Krell before they reach the civilians. Vera pushed through the crowd, her forearms carrying Thryn combat weapons. The Thryn will fight beside you, human. You have proven your worth. Now let us prove ours together. Other species warriors stepped forward. The Gorthak, the Sylvari, even some Valkyrie. Warriors who had watched the demonstration and now understood that they needed to fight together. Hyunwoo turned to Jiwon. Get teams organized. Anyone with kinetic weapons in the front line. Energy weapons in support. We defend Section 15 first, then push toward the other breach points. Jiwon nodded and started shouting orders. Warriors from different species gathered around her. The humans were taking command and nobody was arguing. They had proven they knew how to fight. More explosions rocked the station. On the screens, Krell boarding pods were attaching to the hull like metal insects. The phase technology let them bypass the outer shields. Soon, Krell warriors would be pouring into the station. Hyunwoo checked his ammunition one more time. Full magazines, plenty of grenades. He looked at the warriors gathering around him. Different species, different worlds, but all ready to fight. Let's go, he said. Time to show these Krell what happens when they mess with the Galactic Coalition. They ran toward Section 15. Toward the sound of weapons fire and screaming. The real battle was about to begin. The corridors of Helios Nexus shook with explosions. Hyunwoo led the mixed group of warriors through the station, moving toward Section 15. They could hear weapons fire ahead, screaming, the sound of plasma weapons hitting metal. They reached a junction and stopped. Around the corner they could see the battle. Station security forces were firing energy weapons at Krell warriors. But something was wrong. The Krell were walking through the defensive positions. They simply phased through the energy shields like ghosts. Their return fire was cutting down the security forces. The Krell were tall creatures with gray skin and multiple limbs. They wore dark armor that seemed to shift and shimmer. Their weapons fired red energy bolts. And they were winning easily, Jiwon whispered to Hyunwoo. Their phase technology makes them immune to energy weapons. The shields can't stop them, and the plasma fire goes right through them when they shift. Hyunwoo nodded. But they're solid when they shoot. That's when they're vulnerable. He raised his voice. Everyone with kinetic weapons, front line. Wait for my signal. When they fire, we fire. The warriors moved into position. Hyunwoo crouched behind a corner, rifle ready. Jiwon was next to him. Behind them, Thryn warriors with projectile weapons waited. A few Gorthak had slug throwers. Even Thexal had found an old kinetic rifle from somewhere. The Krell advanced down the corridor, phasing through the security forces' positions. They looked unstoppable. Then Hyunwoo saw what he was waiting for. A Krell warrior solidified to fire his weapon. In that moment he was physical. Real. Now, Hyunwoo shouted. The mixed force opened fire. Bullets and projectiles filled the corridor. The Krell warrior who had been aiming was hit by 5 rounds at once. His armor cracked. He fell. The other Krell tried to phase, but they couldn't shoot while phased. They were caught in a terrible choice. Stay phased and be safe but unable to fight back, or solidify to shoot and become vulnerable. Hyunwoo's team kept firing. controlled bursts, aimed shots. Another Krell fell. Then another. The invaders started backing up, taking cover. For the first time since the attack began, they were losing ground. Advance, Hyunwoo ordered. The team moved forward, using cover, maintaining fire. The station security forces saw what was happening and joined in from the sides. Together, they pushed the Krell back toward the breach point. In another part of the station, similar scenes were playing out. Word was spreading fast. Kinetic weapons work against the Krell. Warriors who had primitive projectile weapons were being rushed to the front lines. The Krell's advantage was disappearing. Bara fought beside Hyunwoo, her forearms working efficiently. 2 held weapons, 2 threw grenades. "This is good fighting," she called out over the noise. "Your human tactics are effective." They reached the breach point where the Krell boarding pod had attached to the hull. More Krell were coming through. Hyunwoo pulled a grenade from his vest. Not a smoke grenade this time. "A real one! Everyone back!" he shouted. He pulled the pin and threw the grenade through the breach. It disappeared into the Krell boarding pod. 3 seconds later, the explosion rocked the corridor. The breach sealed itself as the emergency systems activated. No more Krell could come through that way. Similar victories were happening at the other breach points. The coalition forces had adapted. They understood now how to fight the Krell. The invaders were being pushed back across the station, but the battle wasn't over. The Krell ships outside were still attacking. They were hammering the station's shields with heavy weapons. The station's defensive guns were firing back, but Krell's shields were strong against energy weapons. On the command deck, the station commander was watching the tactical displays. She was a Sylvari, a species that looked like silver-skinned elves. Her name was Kaela, and she was desperate. The station's shields were at 40%. The Krell ships were slowly overwhelming their defenses. Hyunwoo contacted her through his communicator. "Commander Kaela, this is Captain Hyunwoo. We've pushed back the boarding parties, but we need to stop those ships. We're doing everything we can," Kaela responded. "But their shields are too strong. Our energy weapons aren't penetrating." "What about kinetic weapons?" Hyunwoo asked. "Do you have any missiles? Real missiles with physical warheads?" There was a pause. "We have old torpedo systems in storage. We stopped using them centuries ago when energy weapons became standard. But they would take time to install and load." "We don't have time," Hyunwoo said. He looked at Ji-won. She understood immediately what he was thinking. "The human embassy ship," Ji-won said. "It's armed with human missiles," Hyunwoo nodded. He spoke into the communicator again. "Commander, give me launch clearance. My ship has weapons that can hurt those Krell vessels." "Your ship is tiny compared to their cruisers," Kaela said. "It's suicide." "Maybe. Or maybe they're not expecting a primitive human vessel to be a threat. Give me 5 good pilots from different species. Volunteers only. We're going out there." Within minutes, Hyunwoo was running toward the docking bay where Earth's embassy ship waited. It was a small vessel, but it was armed with missiles and a rapid-fire cannon. Human technology. Kinetic weapons, 5 pilots volunteered. Thexol. Vara. A Sylvari named Kirin. A Gorthak named Rook. And a young Kryn pilot named Teska. They all climbed aboard the human ship. It was cramped. The controls looked primitive to them, but they trusted Hyunwoo now. Ji-won took the pilot seat. "Everyone strap in. This is going to be rough." The ship launched from the docking bay and immediately came under fire. Red energy bolts from the Krell cruisers tracked toward them. Ji-won flew like a pilot possessed. The human ship was more maneuverable than the Krell expected. She dodged and weaved through the fire. "They're point defense systems," Thexol observed. "They're designed for energy weapons. They're not tracking our ship correctly." "Because we're not giving off the energy signatures they're looking for," Hyunwoo said. He moved to the weapons station. "Get me close to the lead cruiser. I need a clear shot." Ji-won pushed the engines hard. The ship accelerated toward the massive Krell vessel. It was like a small fish attacking a shark. The Krell cruiser's guns tried to target them, but Ji-won was too fast, her movements too unpredictable. "Firing missiles," Hyunwoo announced. He locked onto the cruiser's shield generator and launched. 4 missiles streaked away from the human ship. They were physical objects, not energy. The Krell shields tried to stop them but weren't calibrated correctly. The shields were designed to disperse energy, not deflect solid objects. The missiles hit. Explosions bloomed across the cruiser's hull. The shield generator took direct hits. The Krell ship's shields flickered and died. "Shields down," Kieran shouted from the sensors station. Immediately, the station's energy weapons focused on the now vulnerable cruiser. Multiple plasma beams struck the ship's armor. Without shields, the damage was severe. The Krell cruiser began venting atmosphere. It turned away, trying to retreat. "Next target," Hyunwoo called. Jiwon was already moving the ship toward another Krell vessel. The Krell fleet was starting to realize what was happening. This small primitive ship was destroying them. The second cruiser tried to run, but Jiwon was faster. More missiles launched. More shields fell. The station's guns did the rest. The remaining Krell ships decided they had enough. They turned and jumped to hyperspace, abandoning their attack. The battle was over. Against all odds, the station had held. The human embassy ship returned to the docking bay to cheering crowds. When Hyunwoo and his team emerged, warriors from dozens of species were there to greet them. They made sounds of celebration in hundreds of different ways. Ambassador Minho pushed through the crowd. He was crying with joy. "You did it. You saved the station. You saved all of us." Commander Kayla approached. She bowed deeply, which was unusual for a Silvery. "Captain Hyunwoo, you and your people have proven invaluable. The Coalition owes humanity a great debt." Over the next few days, everything changed for Earth. An emergency session of the Coalition Council was called. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered. The subject was Earth's membership and contribution to the Coalition. The vote was unanimous. Earth was granted full membership with all rights and privileges. More than that, the Coalition requested a formal technology exchange. They wanted human weapons. They wanted human tactics. They wanted to learn from humanity. Hyunwoo stood before the council to speak. "Many of you laughed at our weapons. You called them primitive. And you were right in a way. They are old technology, simple technology, but that simplicity is a strength. Our weapons work in any environment. They don't need exotic power sources. They can't be hacked or disrupted. And most importantly, they're proven. Humanity has been fighting with these weapons for centuries. We know how to use them effectively." He paused, looking at the assembled species. "We're happy to share our knowledge. But remember this, the weapon is just a tool. What matters is the warrior who wields it. Technology alone doesn't win battles. Courage, training, and tactics do. That's what humanity brings to the Coalition. Not just our weapons, but our way of thinking about combat." The council erupted in sounds of approval. Earth had found its place in the galaxy, not as a weak newcomer, but as a valuable partner. Weeks later, Hyunwoo and Jiwon stood in a Coalition shipyard. They were watching something remarkable. New Coalition warships were